Hello there, welcome. This is Point of View. I'm Mark Leishman. My guest tonight is Chelsea Smith from the King Country, who won a chance to compete or participate in the Edge, which is a unique leadership program, and it's provided by the Outward Bound Trust, and it's transformed the way she views life and her work, which includes a role as a regional leader for the Dairy Women's Network. The course based at Anakiwa in the Outward Bound area in the Marlborough Sounds, and Chelsea's here to tell us all about it. Chelsea, nice to have you with us.
Hi Mark, how are you?
Great to meet you, and tell us a wee bit about, before we get to Anakiwa and the Outward Bound course, etc., about yourself, what you've been up to.
Well, I moved up to Waikato 2 years ago, farming from Canterbury, moving to Waikato. Quite a big change. I saw more rain in the first month in Waikato than I had in an entire year in Canterbury, but it's been a really amazing move, and being involved with a lot of community and a lot of community roles and everything like that, and that's how I got involved with Dairy Women's Network. So
tell us about your background though. So you're from a farming background in Canterbury?
Grew up on a dairy farm in Wairarapa actually, and then the whole family moved down to the flats of Canterbury to bigger and better land and more cows and more production, and then I found myself in Waikato. So farming's always been in the blood. And
so did you do a bit of tertiary or anything like that in there?
Studied winemaking when I left school. My parents said, do something else to bring to the dairy farm, and absolutely loved that. I managed to do winemaking and travel at the same time, so I got to see a lot of places, but always missed the cows and wanted to come home and milk the cows.
Yeah, so you grew up, I mean, as a child growing up, you were heavily involved in the day-to-day running of the farm? That was part of the deal?
Yeah, very privileged to be a child that's grown up on a farm. Like, you just get, you know, the weekends were to be out on the farm and mustering the cows, feeding the calves, learning how to milk, learning how to drive. Like, it's such a privilege to be a part of that, which a lot of young kids don't get to experience these days.
So where did the winemaking take you? Was it winemaking as such, or what?
Yeah, winemaking. So vintage time is like spring on a farm. So it's really intense, really busy. You get all your fruit in 6 to 8 weeks, and that's what you've got for the year to deal with. So it's like spring on the farm when you get all your calves in, and that's what you're dealing with for the following year. And so I would chase the vintages around the world. So I'd do Northern Hemisphere, then Southern Hemisphere vintage, and managed to do 2 in a year. And it started by my first job at age 12, or my first paying job apart from the dairy farm, was in a summer vineyard cafe. And I just remember as a young kid, the smell of stainless steel concrete and the smell of fermenting wine was just like amazing. Yeah, like it's just such a comforting smell, and that's how, when I started thinking about other things to bring into the farming business, that's when I thought winemaking, I'd love to try it.
Yeah, and has it now, I mean, have you developed a real, obviously you have an appreciation for wine. Do you love wine?
Absolutely love wine, so I need the farming salary to be able to afford to drink the wine that I do, and I'm still involved in a lot of tastings and enjoy wine and food matching. It's one of my hobbies outside of farming.
It's a great thing to have, as you say. It's quite distinct from your day-to-day work.
Yeah, it's really lovely, and it's all things focusing on the land, you know, the te wā.
So let's focus now on your day-to-day work. What happened after the wine, you know, did you go back to the farm presumably?
Yes, went back to the farm. So I'd always go back to the farm, milk the cows, miss the cows, just enjoyed being outside. And
no thoughts of going on the family farm? Or?
I was on the family farm, but I wanted to grow in my own skin by myself, and moving up to Waikato, I progressed really quickly. So I went from managing 1,100 cows to contract milking, my first contract milking job with milking 800 cows and 3 staff under me. And now this season I'm overseeing operations manager over 4 farms, and it's a nice change. It's a different role, and I'm just enjoying seeing the bigger picture of farming.
So how do you do that transition from, you know, working on your family farm, then suddenly you're in the Waikato area and you've got 4 farms to worry about? I mean, how does that happen?
I think it's just getting in with the right people, and showing your passion and your excitement and your purpose and growth for progression, and having really supportive farm owners, I think, is the biggest thing, and people that see potential in you. So I've really enjoyed the growth that's happened in Waitakere.
And you have someone who presumably owns the land, the farms, who believes in you, I guess.
Yes.
That must be
Great, yeah, which has been
confidence booster.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Now, you've got your Dairy Women's Network scarf on. Where does the Dairy Women's Network come into the picture?
Well, Dairy Women's Network is such an amazing community, just such an amazing network to have in the community, because it brings people together and it creates a platform for conversation, for networking, for learning and growing and developing, and it gets people off farm to meeting other people that are close to them in their region. So being new to the area, I wanted to be a part of something where I could meet other people and grow with other people, and Dairy Women's Network had an opening as a regional leader, and I jumped at the opportunity to take it.
Had you been a member of the network before?
I'd been a member.
So you knew sort of what it was all about?
Been to a lot of the modules and everything, but never stood on the other side and saw what it was like to organise the modules, run the modules and deal with network partners and everything like that.
I think that's one of the things that they say about the network, and it's like the rural women as well, that it gives you the chance to train up in a certain area and gives you experience in a leadership role, I guess, and you've carried that forward into your everyday work, I guess.
Absolutely, yeah. Lots of transferable skills being part of a community network and to take back on farm and dealing with staff and the team and everything like that.
So how many staff do you have now?
At the moment I've got 5 under me and then dealing with 4 managers, contract milkers.
And they were running the 4 farms and you were overseeing it?
Yeah, overseeing them.
Wow, and so that role, that's pretty full on, isn't it?
It is full on, and it's maize season at the moment and putting all the crops in and everything, and the weather hasn't been playing ball, so trying to cut silage in between the rain showers and plant maize before the 10th of October. So we're a couple of weeks behind this year, but I think that's the beauty of farming, and especially Waikato, because it's so changeable and anything could happen.
It feels like to me that you're pretty much hands-on. Are you out there in the paddocks doing the work as well? I mean, or are you an office-bound sort of?
I don't spend enough time in the office. That's usually for night times when no one's calling me or annoying me. So no, I'm definitely out there watching the grass grow, choosing the paddocks to go to, milking the cows. At the moment I'm up on the vet stand pulling out cows for artificial insemination, and that's my favourite time of the year, because you're just seeing how well your cows are doing. This really shows. How
do you find as a young woman dealing with I presume a predominantly male industry, if you like? I mean, do you find that hard, or is that a challenge? Or?
I think because like winemaking and dairy farming, they're both very male dominant industries, and because I've never known any different, I don't realise what the challenges would or wouldn't be. But you've definitely at some times got to show your teeth a bit more than other times, but you just learn different ways of dealing with it, and how I like to approach things is not really going angry or hard and heavy. You always need to find out if someone does have a problem or an issue. You need to find out what it is and why it is and how to mitigate it, and what you can change in your communication style. So you're constantly learning how to lead a team and to organise people, because if they're not being receptive to your kind of style of leadership, you've got to learn how to change and what things you can do.
Well, they've got to learn how to change.
Yeah, absolutely.
Goes that way as well. About the network again, do you know how many rural leaders there are, or regional leaders?
Well, there's at least 5 to 6 groups in the Waikato, so we're quite a strong region for groups, and there's 2 to 3 regional leaders per group, and it's New Zealand wide.
And what does a regional leader actually do, and what is your region as such? Is it the whole?
So the region is Otrahonga South, like Otrahonga to Taumaranui, and we cover that whole region, and our role as a regional leader is to be the familiar face at all the modules. So we've got a module coming up about ASB banking and knowing your finances, so we'll be there liaising with the ASB managers and speakers and organising the morning tea, because that always gets a lot of people there, and being the familiar face that when the women come out from the farm that, oh, we saw you last time, and updating the Facebook page and sending out emails.
And do you find, you can see women when they come off to one of these events, that they come in sort of a bit reluctant, saying, what am I doing here? Is that a...
Yeah, absolutely. You can see when people come in and they're sort of like, it's that first 5 seconds walking into the room and they're like, oh, where do I stand? Who do I talk to? And then as soon as someone shares a story about how terrible their morning's been or how awesome their morning's been, already you've got a common connection, because everyone's like, oh, great, I'm not the only one, or like, I'm not the only one that got 30 mils last night and it was hard for them as well. So I really enjoy seeing that connection.
Now we've got to get on to the Edge. Tell us, what is the Edge?
So NZCA has come on, New Zealand Chartered Accountants has come on as a new network partner for Dairy Women's Network. And so as their opening offer to the Dairy Women's Network, they were offering a scholarship for one regional leader to be a part of the Edge leadership program, which they send their accountants on. To be a part of that, which is run over 2 separate sessions, one end of July and one coming up in November. And I was the regional leader that won the scholarship because it was right in the middle of calving and it suited me. So I was quite happy about that. And it was really a life-changing experience. Yeah, it really was.
Right, well, we've got some great stories to come, because we're going to find out what actually happened on the course, including being deserted overnight. We'll find out all about that with Chelsea when she returns and I return right after this break. This is Point of View, Country TV. Welcome back. You're watching Point of View. I'm Mark Leishman. My guest Chelsea Smith, who is about to tell us about her experience on the Edge, which is a program, a leadership program, and it's done by Outward Bound. So take it away, Chelsea. What happened? You went to the Anakiwa, I suppose, what do they call it? The lodge there in the Marlborough Sounds?
Yeah, they call it the school. The Outward Bound School. Yeah,
the Outward Bound School. So, the Edge, tell us about that and what you had to do.
Yeah, so it was a really amazing course. Everything we did, like whether it was rowing or rock climbing or kayaking, was all about how we cope under pressure, how we would still lead under pressure, and everything came back to leadership and working in a team and being part of a team. So we got off the ferry, we met at the ferry terminal, and our first task was to row to the next bay, which was 3 hours away, and you've got 9 people who know each other's first name and that's about it, and you've all got to row a boat in time and get to your destination.
So you turn up with your bags?
Yeah.
Off the Cook Strait ferry?
Yeah.
And there's a boat? There's a boat. We'll see you there.
That's where you're going. Yeah.
Really? How amazing.
And so we didn't even go to the school on the first night.
What, you didn't make it?
We made it to a lodge and we thought, okay, so we've got a house, so we'll be sleeping in a house. And at about 9 o'clock we were told that we had to go set up the cutter, which is what we were rowing in, and 9 strangers had to squash on the cutter for the night and put a tarp up to make sure we didn't get wet, and row ourselves out to the middle of the bay so no one could jump off and sleep on the land in the middle of the night. And that was day 1. So
you actually slept on the boat in the middle of the Sounds?
Yeah, in the bay.
My goodness gracious, what were you thinking?
I think we were all like, okay.
And how quickly did it take for you to sort of form into, did you form into groups?
Oh, absolutely. Like the 9 of us, by the end of that day 1, we all knew each other's strengths and weaknesses pretty much.
Really, yeah. And were they all people, obviously, to get on the course? Were they all? They
were all accountants. So because it was run by NZCA.
And one dairy farm.
And one dairy farm.
Yeah.
And they were good fun.
Were they all leaders in their?
All leaders in their field.
So they were achievers. They had the.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And when you say strengths and weaknesses, can you highlight, say, without naming names, of course, but some strengths and weaknesses, even your own perhaps?
Yeah, well, with the kayaking, it's hard enough for me to go in a straight line, let alone tip myself over and try not to drown.
Oh yeah, oh god, yeah.
In cold, very, very cold water, must I add. This was the middle of winter and it was raining. But there were people on the team that were really experienced and really confident at that. Yeah. So they were the ones that would be your watcher or turn your boat over, or the second people that would just give you, oh, you know, it's going to be all right, you'll be fine, and they'd hang at the back to make sure everyone else had got in line, and they would be at the back. And then there were examples with the running, so all the stronger runners, they'd be turning around, coming back, and everyone who was a little bit slower, they'd be like, come on, you're not that far away, and things like that really helped everyone. And people that are scared of heights and ropes and everything, it was just that encouragement of you can do it, like you don't have far to go.
And is a lot of it the instructors leaving you as a group to it?
Yeah, we don't really know what's going on the whole time we're there.
Right. So when you say the roll over the kayak, was there someone there saying, this is how you do it?
Yep, so the instructors were with us, but we buddied up. And so you'd have the one who was more nervous with a stronger person, and that would build confidence in the less experienced person. But the instructors were there, but most of the time they did. You don't know what's coming, you're guaranteed breakfast, lunch and dinner, you don't know how and where that is, but other than that it's really having to, like most of our lives are controlled, so with accountants it's 6-minute units, so you know they're very controlled at their time management, and then all of a sudden to be thrown into this, you've got no communication with the outside world, most of the time no concept of time, and no idea what you're doing next. So that's a rarity in today's society, you know, and it's quite a nice feeling.
Yeah, is it?
Yeah.
Is it to get away from all that?
Yeah, it was.
The demands of the day.
Well, because you don't worry. I mean, what you don't see or what you don't hear, you don't worry about. You know.
So you just worry about the job at hand.
You're focusing on getting out of that kayak alive. You know, that's your main focus.
Not being trapped under the water.
Yeah, exactly, and that's your main focus of the day. So it's a really refreshing break for the mind, because, you know, our second night we were in bunk beds and we thought that was absolute luxury after sleeping on a cutter, you know, and your whole perspective of everything just changes.
Oh my God. So you say it's life-changing, this thing. I mean, how so? I mean, what did, you know, you said my life hasn't been the same.
Well, it's you do all of these courses, and you might do a day course or a 2-day course, and you leave that course and you go back to your normal life, and you have your evenings and check your social media, talk on the phone, listen to your music, hop in the car, have control over everything you do. And then you're just back in normal life and it's all forgotten. Whereas outward bound, you've got to leave everything at the door, and all the fears that you take in to outward bound, like my biggest fear was jumping into cold water, because I just thought I wouldn't cope. You realise what outward bound does is it pushes you past your comfort zone, which then extends your comfort zone, and you realise that your biggest fears don't actually mean the end. You know, it's just a challenge, and you overcome it, and then.
So do you fear cold water now?
I don't need to do it all the time, but I can.
So it's not getting out of cold showers and things like that?
No, but I can jump in the water and know that I'll survive.
And what's the psychological, what was the switch there? Just do it?
Well, it was, you know, those things that I mean, I was never going to jump into cold water on a normal day in my own life, you know, but it's those things that you fear that you don't think is a big deal, but now that you've done them, you go, oh, well, my comfort zone's now out here, and you go, oh, well, next time there's a challenge.
And I guess you know you can cope with it.
Yeah, you know you can cope, yeah.
Now the thing that everyone talks about outward bound, of course, is being taken to an island and left with the possums and the rats and the mice and everything else. Tell us about that story. Was that the case? Did that happen?
That was the case, and that's what outward bound is renowned for. People turn up for 24 hours and say, can we do a solo? And they say, you're here for 24 hours, you're not going to have time to do a solo. So we knew it was coming up, and we thought, oh, it will just be one night, you know, like we're getting towards the end of the week of our 5 nights, and oh, it'll just be one night. And they told us before dinner at 6 o'clock that have dinner, pack your bags, we're walking an hour and a half to your destination in the dark with your bags, with your water, with your food, and they drop you off, and we were there 40 hours, I think it was.
Wow.
And you've got no concept of time, no music, no fire, 2 apples, 2 carrots, 2 biscuits, some nuts, and that's you.
Water or anything like that?
Water, yep, you got water, and you got a bucket as well. And you get a little tarp, and you get your sleeping bag, and no books or anything like that, and you've just got 40 hours in the bush with your own thoughts.
You're not sitting on a little bush shelf looking out across the beautiful Marlborough Sounds.
No, it's in the bush.
Completely surrounded.
Yeah. There was like peaks of sunshine and little...
But you've got your little square, is it? All...
Just a little square, so we couldn't wander out of that either because we'd probably bump into the next person.
Did you sort of shout out to anyone in the night, say hello or anything?
No. I probably would have scared myself with the echoes coming back.
So what was it like?
Well, everyone, the walk into the bush, everyone was quite quiet and hesitant, and nobody really knew how they would feel or what emotions it would bring up, whether it was loneliness, sadness, extreme happiness, or peace, fear, everything. And it was just really interesting to see the change of everyone when they walked out. Like everyone had their own experience and journey. And
did anyone freak out about it all?
Some people were worried about possums and pigs. And
did they turn up at all?
No, I only saw a couple of weekers that just wanted to come say hi, and,
that was nice.
And that was about it. But no pigs or possums or anything trying to steal my food.
So what did you take out of that?
Well, that was just another fear that you think, well, how am I going to cope with my own thoughts by myself for 40 hours because I'll drive myself crazy.
What did you think in the 40 hours? Can you say, was there anything that...
We had our leadership profiles. So we...
Which was what you had to write?
It was a 40-page book.
Oh, I see.
So we had 5 to 6 people rate us on how they thought our leadership ability was, and then that was collated into a book.
Within your group?
People around us who worked with us or know us, our working styles, and that was collated and given to us at the group. So it was 40 pages. It took me the entire day to read that because it was freezing. It was so cold. So I just spent most of the day pacing, trying to keep warm. So that was really the main thoughts that were going through my head, was just staying warm.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you? I mean, you had the right gear?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, merino inners and outdoor sleeping bags, but it was cold.
And so you were reading all this about yourself?
Yeah.
Did you know who had written the...
No, because it was anonymous. Like, I knew the people I had asked to write for me, but I didn't know who had written it. And it was just a self-reflection on what am I going to change when I go back, or what can I improve on, or what am I doing well at. Just self-talk in your head.
So it was 5 days, and afterwards, what do? Do you come back to the Dairy Women's Network and tell everyone about it, and encourage others onto it, or what?
Yeah, well, I would encourage anyone to do it. I mean, there's the 21-day courses, which Outward Bound are known for.
21 days.
21, yeah.
Whoa.
And yours was 5.
5. That was fine. That was great. That was a good chunk of time. And then I'm really looking forward to going back in November when it's a bit more warmer and sun shining, and we'll probably do a lot more hiking. And
oh, so you go back, is this still part of the...
Yeah, all part of the course.
The next phase?
Yeah, which is amazing, and we still keep in contact with each other. Yeah. So we've had a couple of Zoom meetings and just checking in how everyone's going and how their leadership journey's going and whether they're putting anything into practice, and that's been really good as well, because most courses, like I say, you do your 4 days, that's it. But to be able to go back to Anakiwa, not many people can say that they've gone back to Outward Bound for the second time.
I wonder what dastardly things they've got in store for you there.
Well, there's a lot more sunshine hours, so they said there'll be a lot more later nights.
So let's get back to that. That's a wonderful, great story and well told. To where you see the world going now. I mean, from your perspective, dairy farming's under the gun in so many ways. It's under the spotlight big time. How do you feel about that and the attitude, perhaps, of town people towards the country?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of pressure at the moment. Like a lot of pressure, especially with the freshwater bill coming in and all of that. And and just finishing calving. It's been a really hard season for a lot of people in terms of weather, and it is an incredibly hard industry to be a part of, and sometimes you can't see the light at the end of the tunnel when you're constantly getting bombarded and attacked and everything like that. But I think our biggest thing as farmers is we need to close that rural-urban divide and just tell our story more. And be in positive stories. And I know so many people are doing it, like there's an Instagram and YouTube channel and all of these platforms that are showing dairy farming in a positive light, and it's just a matter of still holding on to that light at the end of the tunnel, because the future is positive and there is still a need for animal proteins in the world, and it's just like with anything, you have your ups and your downs, and if we just push through all of this, I still feel like it's a major strength in our economy.
Thank you so much for joining us, and can't wait to hear. We must get you back after November to see what else they got you up to. But thanks, Chelsea. It's been great meeting you. So Chelsea Smith from the Dairy Women's Network, and of course in charge of 4 farms in the Waikato, and her story on Outward Bound. And that's our point of view for another week. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time.